This is just a short video. Try to keep it brief because our DSL service is real slow. Takes forever to upload anything to YouTube. This is one of my old raised beds, and I'm in the process of rehabilitating it. This bed, it was my first one I ever built here and started with, and then I started adding more and more beds as time went along, until now I've got a bunch of them. And of course I've got them fenced in to try to keep animals and my chickens out. I use the word try. When I first started this raised bed, of course, had all the books and read all the stories and everything, but I did what I could with what I had. Filled it up with compost where I could get it. Had it first with strawberries, then other plants, and then at one time I had the whole thing in garlic. You started the garlic from one set I had gotten from my grandmother's old home place back in the early 90s, and it multiplied, and then I took it and set it out here, and I dug it up. And as most of you know, if you don't get every last little sprig of it, it'll come on back, and plus the seed stalks themselves will drop seeds or pods or whatever it is, and it'll re-establish itself and grow over the years. This one I thought completely cleared 3 years ago when I harvested them, and still had a bunch of them in there this year. Grown tomatoes, peppers, squash, cold season, cool season crops, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, everything in this bed. Decided it's time to rehabilitate it. So since I started out just rapid what I could get my hands on, there's a lot of small gravels and some of the old compost I would get and other things. And over the years I fought Bermuda grass, so decided to rehabilitate this. So what I did, I excavated dirt on this quarter and come over here and dug down, and then I moved and I set a homemade screen up on these sawhorses, and I started digging out and sifting everything back into this section. And as this section began to fill up, I took my wheelbarrow and I started sifting more until I got the other quarter completely excavated. And as I went, I wound up with quite a bit of garlic, as well as gravels. I don't know if you can see them over there. Just a bunch of little gravels and stuff and rocks that sift out, trying to clean it up. I feel I've got pretty good soil here. And so anyway, and that's a 2-gallon pail, and you can see I'm not half done, and I've got that much garlic, so we'll have plenty of garlic. When I got it down here about a foot deep, I took my trusty old heavy-duty garden fork, and I inserted it about 10 inches deep in the ground, and I broke the ground loose. I don't invert the ground, I just breaking it loose. Now I will say a couple things, and those that may know better than me might argue the point. I don't really like to disturb these beds extensively during the summer season, because you upset the worms and the soil organisms, and it takes them quite a while to recover due to the heat and the dryness. But you do what you got to do. So I'm going to rehabilitate this. I'm going to add more compost and peat moss and cow manure and chicken manure and perlite and vermiculite, anything I can get a deal on, come up with, and add to it. This soil test on these beds last summer was excellent. Had like a 6.5 pH, called for no phosphorus or potassium, or literally no need for amendments at all. But I'm just doing that, show you a couple other things. My peppers have not done real good this year. There's a succession planting of white patty pan squash, producing real good right now. My tomatoes has about had it. Here's a bed I had some stuff in, and I've got ready. I'm gonna start with my cool season greens and stuff. Another bed that did have some early squash in it. Now it's a late patch of contender green beans. I love those things fresh. And brief moment to point out to you here, this is a compost pile. I explained to you, I just form up a bin around it with some hardware cloth. And early on when I started in summer, in my first video I mentioned it, but by the time I got through, this was level with these wire rails here. And that was about 2 foot, that's 2 foot tall above the bed, and it was completely full. And all I've done is just adding garden waste, pea hulls, eggshells, scraps from the kitchen, things of that nature. Chicken manure is cleaned out under the chicken roost, and I've kept it wet. Now you can see both from settling, and if I was to dig in here, you would see just an unbelievable amount of earthworms. So this I will not disturb until late this winter, letting the organisms work. I don't like, again, to disturb them during the hot, dry part of the season, because they are multiplying and really working their little tails off. And I had also mentioned and showed you I've got a huge compost bin started with leaves and everything. Used soybean meal, chicken compost, eggshells, crushed oyster shells, and it is already broken down tremendously. I'll do the same thing like this during the winter. I'll start turning and tilling and aerating this more. Right now I'm just letting the organisms do their job. In a future video I want to talk about this recycling. Most of the materials you see here are this recycled, this hardware cloth, some of these posts, some of this other material. Even these rails from my raised beds are recycled, repurposed materials. And I'd like to go in to make a video, hopefully in the near future, about the importance of this being ready to repurpose, reuse, recycle, and then reuse some more materials you might pick up and find around your community and your homestead. For the previous viewers and commenters, I appreciate your comments on my other videos. I don't always know how to comment to some of the comments or reply. I'm afraid I don't know how to utilize Instagram, but I want to invite you to subscribe, like, comment on my videos. I'm always learning. I've got a lot to learn if I live long enough. I thank you again for watching. Plowboy 56 out.